Islam, Islam,
Islam,
Islam.
Islam, Islam.
We'd like to welcome the audience, welcome our viewers and audience and listeners, my apology, to the Moorish channel. I'm your host, one half of the dynamic duo. I'm coming to you this evening. I'm Brother Brendan Jordan-El, Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's temple number 13, located here in Baltimore, Maryland. And with me this evening for our segment for Moorish Science Channel interviews, we have an esteemed elder in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Paradigm, and that's Brother Romanni Amenu-EL. Thank you this evening for joining us on the Moorish Sense channel. As always, I open up the channel with the Moorish American prayer. And Brother Amenu-EL, would you mind leading us off with the Moorish American prayer?
I'd be more than happy to do so.
Thank you.
Islam,
Islam,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Father of love,
the Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation
and my salvation
by night
by night
and by day.
and by day.
Through his holy prophet,
Through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
I like
Praise
to, may I
Yes,
say,
sir. Sure.
I like to also say to the God of our hearts, to the God of our, the universal God, creator of all things, the God of our hearts, the God of our being. I give thanks for this beautiful, beautiful day. I thank you for the breath of life. Thank you for the vital life force. I thank you for cosmic consciousness. Thank you for good health and strength. I thank you for our parents, grandparents, ancestors, and all those who have contributed to our well-being through your guidance and your grace. And I thank you for sending us Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
This has been, I think I've reached out to you maybe maybe 4 or 5 months ago. You've been watching the program, the Moorish Sense channel. You know, myself and Sheikh Valance Bey, we definitely appreciate, the positive feedback and just you building that rapport with us. And with that being said, I wanted to just give our audience just a little bit of your background and then allow you to open up, or we open up the floor to you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into our questions and answers segment, if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Mm-hmm.
Praise Allah. All right, so I just wanted to give a brief introduction to your biography. So Brother Romanni Amenu-EL was born in Baltimore, Maryland. That's May 30th of 1939. He was the eldest of 10 siblings, with the blessings of both his parents on his live recorded birth was amended. His birth name was amended. His birth name was Clarence Rideout Reynolds-EL to Romanni Mali-El Amenu-EL in 1979 via the Circuit Court of Baltimore, Maryland, in the state of Maryland. This was accomplished to reflect his ancient ancestral heritage and family name through ancient Morocco and Egypt. And also, Brother Romanni attended Baltimore City Public Schools, also served in the military with honorable discharge, and later he attended Baltimore Community College, retiring from the state of Maryland's government. During his tenure in state service, he was elected to the president of the Maryland Classified Employees Association, which is one of the largest independent labor organizations in the state of Maryland. At that time, they had over 23,000 members. At the age of 11, Brother Amenu-EL states that he remembers seeing his first Moorish American wearing a red fez, but it wasn't until 1970 when he was formally introduced to the Moorish movement. He also was a key member in the original School of Law and History here in the state of Maryland, and that was under the leadership of the Honorable Richardson Dingle, who was the founder of the school. He also served as the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and there were other many great things as well that we're going to talk about this evening. Brother Amenu-EL is also a member of the Ancient Mystical Order of the Rosicrucians, and he's been an active member for the last 22 years, and he studies metaphysics and ontology. He currently lives here in Baltimore, Maryland with his wife and his 3 children. Did I miss anything, Brother Amenu-EL?
Oh, no, I've been in the Rosicrucian order actually probably about 40 years now.
Wow.
I mean, 22 years back during that time.
Praise Allah.
But I can give you a little history about that as we go along.
Yes, sir. All right. So, for those who are in the interactive chat, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to, you know, add your questions or pose your questions in the chat. Brother Amenu, you should be able to see the questions as well. And if you aren't, then I'll just prompt you as we go through the questions. So, my first question for you: how were you formally introduced to the Moorish Science Temple of America? That's the first question I have for you.
Okay, well, the first time that I ever saw uh, anybody with affairs or the Moors, I used to live in the Gilmore projects, and this is back in the 40s. I'm talking, so I might have been 10, 11 years old. So this it's a long time ago because I'm 85 now.
Wow.
So we used to see them coming down the street with long overcoats and long beard, and we called them the Mohegans. So I didn't see them. I didn't see anything else about from that, because I learned that they had a temple not too far from where we lived. So in approximately 1969, 1970, I was in my early 30s, and I was ready to make a change. A lot was happening on the planet during that period of time. It was a big change all over the country. Anybody that lived during the 70s, I remember Marvin Gaye came out with a song, "What's Going On," all of
Mhm.
that. But I know that I had been through some, bumps and knocks, and I was ready for a big change to occur in my life. And so my brother and I, my biological brother, who was right under me, because it was 10 of us, he was ready to do some things too. He used to run what they call the Timbuktu Center on Edmonton Avenue. That was many, many years ago.
Hmm.
And so uh, I said, okay. I started reading the book, Message to a Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
One of my other biological brothers by the name of Joe, he said, I know somebody knows something about that. He said, it's a man in back of where we live at. And he said, you want me to introduce you to him? I said, yeah, I'd like to talk to him. So I go out in the yard, in the back of the house, and he had just pulled up in his truck. And this brother was none other than the Honorable Timothy Dingle. Okay.
Salam. Yes, sir.
So when he pulled up the truck, my brother carried me over and introduced him to me. And he told him, he said, yeah, my brother's reading this book. He said, and I'd like to, for you to talk to him. He said, oh, I'll be glad to talk to him. Let me see the book. So I showed him the book, and he didn't respond for about maybe a minute and a half. He said, okay, I see. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, if somebody gave you a glass of milk, no, he said, somebody gave you a glass of milk and put a fly in it, you drink it? And I said, no. He said, what about if they took a spoon and dipped the fly out of the milk? Would you drink it then? I said, no, I probably wouldn't. He said, well, that book you got in your hands, a glass of milk, and there's a fly in it. And then he started chuckling. So he called one of his younger sons down. He had a set of twins, Boaz and Tira. So they were playing up at the top of the alley. So he said, Boaz, come here. So Boaz ran down the alley. And he said, take a look at this. He said, what's wrong with this book? And Boaz kept looking at it. So he looked at it for a few minutes. He said, oh, I know what's wrong. He said, the star and the crescent is backwards.
Wow.
So he started chuckling again. So I started asking him a question. So he said, well, look, he said, I tell you what. He said, you come over to my house Sunday, and I'll have a man over there that can answer all your questions.
Mm.
So I said, okay. So I go over to his house in his lower basement, and I saw the two flags. I saw the Moorish flag on one side, and an American flag on the other side. And the people that he had down there were mostly elders, couple young people my age maybe,
Mm.
and so they all had fezzes on. That's the first time I been in an environment like that.
Right.
So he was in the back, and I never forget it. He came out and he said, he said, I met a young man over in back of the alley, and I told him that I have a man over there can answer all his questions. And he said, he said, yeah. He said, well, I am he. I am that man. And he had a green turban on and what have you. So I sat there and listened to everything. And when I left out of there, um, during the middle of the week, one of my other brothers and I were walking down the street, and a thought hit me instantly. And that thought was, we are not Negroes, colored, or black. That's
Right.
my mind.
Right.
So I had to run back up. I wanted to get up to his house quick and ask him. So when I got up there, he was strong in stature. He grabbed my shoulders. He said, "Oh, you got it." When I asked him the question. So that introduced me to the Moorish Science Temple. And the first piece of literature that I got was the warning from Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Yes.
And later on, I got the Circle 7, I got the 101,
Mm.
all those things, and my nationality card. I got all those things from the Honorable Timothy Dingle. He was the first brother that introduced Noble Drew Ali to me.
Wow.
I want that to be known for the listening audience. And I later met his older brother, but we can get into that as we go along. So that was my introduction to the Moorish Science Temple. So that was a lengthy introduction, but maybe some of the Moors who tuned in would appreciate hearing that.
I think they would. I definitely think they would. Even just right here, with this interview, this is two different generations, but we have a lot of it's a little some things in common that I found out. Ultimately, you're a Gemini as well as I am. It's something that I found out. And then also you mentioned Emerson Avenue, and that's actually where I'm actually from. I'm here in the city of Baltimore.
Okay.
So it's definitely a blessing to hear that. Just your earlier introduction to the Moorish Science Temple of America. I noticed you mentioned the Grand Sheik Timothy Dingle, and I also know in your biography that you had given me a copy of. It was also mentioned of the Honorable Richardson Dingle as well.
Mhm.
He was the founder of the original School of Law and History.
Okay.
So, if you wouldn't mind, would you just in brief, provide us a little bit of information in regards to your introduction to the Grand Sheik Richardson Dingle, and also what was the purpose of the original School of Law and History?
Okay. Well, at that time, during the early 70s, Brother Richardson Dingle would come over and visit his brother Timothy. And Brother Richardson Dingle was born in 1910. And he was approximately 13 years older than Timothy, Brother Timothy Dingle. And he would come over and sit in some of our meetings, and he had a couple of young brothers with him. And so eventually, and some of the brothers would come down from Philadelphia. And it's interesting because the name of your
Oh,
channel is Moorish Sense.
right.
And they had a publication, which was just a paper publication because they did it themselves, and that was called More Sense.
Hmm.
So that's what attracted me to your website, because that rang a bell with me, because they would come down here every weekend and they would study. Um, so gradually, we started studying with them. They invited me to study with them. And at the time, Timothy Dingle was still, running, doing his thing, because they were brothers, they had little things. They loved each other. That
Hmm.
much I can tell you. They
Right.
loved each other. And from my knowledge, Richardson Dingle was the one who brought Timothy in to the organization. But anyway, we started studying with them, and we were reading that newspaper called More Sense. And so that newspaper had a lot of information in there relative to uh, other information that was germane in our Moorish literature.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, in our Moorish literature, we see that in 1774, and that warning that in fact, I think I got it right close to me
Okay.
so that I could bring it out.
Yes,
This was the one that we had.
that's right. I have a copy as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know you do, because I've heard you talk about it.
Yes.
But it talked about one of the paragraphs said that the 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in units, placing the Southerner, which was at that time without power, to the constitutional body of power.
That's right.
And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men free and equal. And so that was just part of it. It's more to it.
Yes.
I wanted to know, well, what happened in 1774?
Mm.
I never heard anything like that. And when we started studying with Richardson Dingle, the Grand Sheik Richardson Dingle, one of the first questions he asked us was, how many articles in the Constitution?
Okay.
And we said, the Constitution? Well, why would he ask us a question like that? We said, well, that's somebody else's Constitution. That don't pertain to us, what little we knew.
Right.
And later on, we found out that there were 7 original articles to the Constitution. And I thought that was interesting, since we have a book called The Circle Seven, but we can get back to that a little later.
Yes.
Yeah, but anyway, long story short, we started meeting in people's houses, and we started studying about the Articles of Association in 1774,
Mm.
and they later matured to the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and then was the Articles of Confederation, and then finally we had a Constitution. And so we started studying a lot about that, because Richardson Dingle had a lot of old books in his house on his table. I mean, the pages were yellow. He had one book called The Great Conspiracy, so
Yeah.
it had a lot to do with the slavery issue, like how we fell into slavery. And so there was all types of information that was available. In my first studies, I used to study, from a biblical point of view. Timothy Dingle asked me instructed me to go get a Bible.
Mm.
And he asked me, could I read it? And I told him no. And he explained to me Old Testament, New Testament, how many books were there. And I started tracing, the history, because I heard that, through the Moorish literature, that we were descendants of the ancient Moabites,
That's right.
Canaanites, Hittites.
That's
I
right.
wanted to know all about that. So, being a Gemini, as you pointed out, I was very inquisitive and dug into that, much of it as I could. But there's so much history, I'm just touching what motivated us. So we started meeting in people's houses, relative to teaching. We had like a Moorish school, Moorish history class. It started off being a class, and it started expanding, because we were starting to uncover a lot of history that we see the keys of in the Moorish literature.
Right.
Say the keys, Noble Drew brought us the keys.
That's
The
right.
keys open up a door.
That's right.
Doors are doors to knowledge.
That's right.
And so when he brought us the keys, he that gave us the wherewithal to say, well, look, we need to deal. What are all of these keys? How can we get our hands on them? What do they mean? How do they affect us from a nationality point of view? And so, of course, that led us into a lot of things. It led us into the Civil War history. I can get into that at another time, but that was very germane to what we're talking about, because I found out that a lot of the Moors, our Moorish brothers and sisters, and I want to say this, I may not have said it in the beginning.
Sure.
I love all of my Moorish brothers and sisters. I love Noble Drew Ali, because if it weren't for Noble Drew Ali, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
That's right.
And some of the Moors may say, well, what made you join another organization? That's just another school of thought to enhance my teachings of Noble Drew Ali. And when I say that, I'm talking about the Rosicrucian order.
Islam.
And I saw a lot of words that led me to that, and we can get into that later. But anyway, you asked me what was the purpose of the Moorish School of Law and History, and that was to do research.
Okay.
And so when we talk about research, I had made a little chart based on our previous conversation, and how important research is.
That's right.
And the older the material, the better it is. Of course, things are changing because we live in a changing world. I know in the prophet's literature, it said he was forced to make changes in 1928. So if he was forced to make changes, we hold our foundation, but we continue to move on.
Well, that's right.
When we talk about research, it's the systematic investigation into and the study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and possibly reach new conclusions.
Right.
So the more information that we have on research, I can't stress enough how much it's necessary for us to read. A lot of our people don't, we're now I say our people, everybody in general is using, technology,
Right.
depending on technology to get all that information. But some of the old books have little keys in them, and you're not going to find into the modern books. And so people like me who have studied a lot of those books, and I'm still reading and still studying at my age now and getting benefit from it. So that was very important, the research that we were doing. And so we saw a need, you know, to formulate a Moorish School of Law and History. And let me say this too: we went to Chicago in the early '70s, maybe the middle '70s.
Mm.
We went to Springfield, Illinois. We went to Cook County, and we got copies of everything that Noble Drew Ali had registered, everything that we could find, amendments to the charter. All the people who were in charge at that time. We paid for and got the copies of all those documents. And so it was very important for us to do that. And so when we talked to Richardson Dingle about it, we found a temple. I mean, we found a place to create a temple.
Mm.
He had a charter, which had descended from
Right.
Connecticut, and gave
Right.
the charter. And then when it was during that time that some of the other Moorish organizations were um, having some difficulty, in establishing the Grand Major Temple and all of that. But that happens in every organization. So I'm not, that's just something that happened that we had to understand. And so anyway, we formulated the Moorish School of Law and History, and then we were able to get a lot of people or people that had degrees, and I mean, like people that had been in the educational system. Some of them had BA degrees, some had master degrees, and then we were able to bring them into the Moorish Science Temple, and they saw the need to proclaim and declare their nationality, and so that helped us to develop the Moorish School of Law and History. You know, at that time, I was elected to be the chairman. I was appointed by Grand Sheik Richardson Dingle
Wow.
to be the chairman of the Moorish School of Law and History.
Mm.
And so from that inception, up until around 1980, I was the chairman of the school, and so we started getting other places in the country connected to the school.
Yes, sir.
So that was my role as chairman of the Moore School of Law and History.
Thank you. And I also noticed in your bio, before we go to the next question, you made reference to being the chairman, but also that you had an audience with, I guess, King Hassan of Morocco,
Oh
as well
yeah,
as. So, could you just speak to that, and also Crown Prince Sidi Mohammed of
yeah,
Morocco?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Well, once we had started studying about the history of Morocco and learned from our questionnaire and our Moorish literature that Morocco was an empire.
That's right.
It wasn't a little small country that we see today.
That's right.
The ancient empire, stretched all the way to the borders of Egypt. And so we were very fascinated with that. And so we had during that particular time, we had some sisters, who were very productive. And I know one of the lessons in the Moorish Science Temple said we need to have a deeper
Woman.
appreciation for womanhood.
That's right.
And so we respected our women. And so our women were really inspirational in getting us a trip, telling us to get a trip together. And so we organized a trip, and we did our own research. We didn't have a travel agent. We found a trip for 14 days going to Portugal, Spain,
Mm.
Morocco, and then back to Spain.
Wow.
And so that was fascinating. And yeah, this is in the '70s. You got to realize this is like in '78, I think it was '78. So we took 17 people
Mm.
on a fact-finding mission, and we wanted to establish a relationship. We said, how come we don't have a relationship? We learned from Brother F. Turner-El, who I met through Brother YG Bay, we learned that he was very instrumental in creating a Moorish homestead, up in Connecticut. He spoke up different languages.
Right.
I had the chance to meet him before he made his transition, and so he was telling us how important it was because there was a time when King Hassan's father was exiled in Madagascar,
Mm.
off the coast of Africa,
Right.
and he regained his title in 1956, and F. Turner Hill played a tremendous part in that. So we wanted to establish a link of the old country. And when I say the old country, I'm talking about ancient Morocco. Now, what we have also through our investigation, we have to realize that the Arab population invaded, North Africa in the 6th century.
That's right. That's
With
right.
the advent of
Historically.
Prophet Muhammad,
That's
peace
right.
be upon him. And but the ancient Moors, the Moorish inhabitants, the records Noble Drew Ali gave us said that we were connected to the Hittites, Moabites, and we received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to inhabit Northwest and Southwest Africa. So we had a big empire there. And so, why it's so important? I might be, but this, I think, what I'm going to say next is very important. Is one of the things that we realize is that when we tell people we are Moors, a lot of people get in superficial, debates about,
Debates and arguments. Right.
well,
Right.
Moor, the word itself means any dark complected person.
Islam. That's right.
Well, he said our complexion is olive.
That's right.
So, when we look at how the advent of slavery in this country, especially in 1619, most of all of our educators and scholars point to that particular time as the beginning of so-called Black history. And remember,
Right. Right.
well, as Moors, we want to know, well, who were we before we fell into that kind of situation? In other words, what contributions did we did? And Noble Drew Ali let it clear in a lot of his in his keys. He talked about the industrious acts of the Muslims and the Moors when they were in Granada, Spain, all those places. And so we said, well, what contributions? If you look at history, the Moors invaded Spain in the year 711, were the dominant power there for 800 years.
Right. That's right.
So in old dictionaries, like some people had dictionaries that high.
I have one. I have one myself. Old school Webster's, like
Yeah,
1800s. That's right.
well, that's good because it used to in your dictionary you'll probably see the term blackamoor.
Right. I had. I
They
had.
say a
Yes.
word no longer in use. So they took the word more away and left people with black. And
Mm.
so we started our history, and I give credit to all those who made it possible, and went through that time frame. But we need to focus on our contributions to world history
Islam.
because there's a difference between Mohammedans, Islamists, and the Moors.
That's right.
When that language first came out, we were the first inhabitants that went into Spain. Brother Tariq and all of them. We crossed the Straits of Gibraltar,
That's right.
miles. But you asked me, the reason I brought that history up because earlier you had asked me about the trip we organized. And so we had developed a plaque that we were going to give to the King Hassan. And we had gone through the embassy at that time. And the embassy at that time were run by some of the French, because the French and Spanish people
Occupied it. That's right.
occupied, a part of Morocco too, especially in Tangiers, where the hue of the people and their, they look a little different. But when you go, we were there, when the further you go into Marrakesh and places like that, you see the darker hue of people start surfacing out because Marrakesh used to be the capital at one point
Islam.
before Rabat became the capital. So anyway, we went into Portugal, and then we went into Spain, and we left from the port of Algeciras and went down in 7 miles, just only 7 miles. We had a big brand new bus, like a Volkswagen bus that that was part of the plan, and we had a tour guide. And when we got to Morocco and Tangiers, we were so happy, and all the brothers had their fezzes on,
Right.
sisters had turbans, and we kissed the ground.
Wow.
And the people at the port of Algeciras waved us on through. They weren't even worried about our passports. I mean, they checked all that later, but they waved us right on through. They were so honored to see somebody from this part of the world that they could identify with.
Wow.
And so they started following us around a little bit, because word got out. I know what happened. We went to a hotel in Rabat, and all the news media came down there from the Al Morocco News, interviewed us, asked us what we were doing there. We told them who we were. We were Moors. We connected with our ancient forefathers, our family and whatnot, and we wanted to, make that connection as in the days of old, and that we had a plaque we wanted to give to the king.
Right.
So anyway, we went down to Marrakesh. We came back up through Marrakesh up in the Atlas Mountains. It was cold up there. And the minute we came back down on the ground to Casablanca, it was it was clear. It was the weather changed. It was warm.
Hmm.
And when we got back into Rabat, we had asked about getting an audience with the king. So then we were notified that 3 of us could go to the royal palace.
Wow.
They weren't going to let all 17 of us in. They said they'll let 3 of us in. And when we went in the royal palace, one of the king's adversaries was there, and he had identified, he was right next to the king. He said, but the king couldn't meet with us at that point, but he wanted to know the nature. And we told him about the letter that we had wrote. We had a copy of all of that. All our credentials was in order. And he said, well, I'll see to it that the king gets this. And so so we came, we went back to Algeciras, nothing happened as a result of that. But we were sure that we had delivered the message. When we got back to the United States, approximately a year later, we found out that the King of Morocco was coming to address the National Press Club over in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
So we we bought tickets for 25 of us, to go to the luncheon that was being given in honor of King Hassan, because he was addressing, the National Press Club.
Mm-hmm.
When we first went in there, they took. Oh, before that happened, we met him at Andrews Air Force Base. I forgot to bring that up, and they had all the Secret Service rushing out to the plane, to take him away. And we were standing right outside in a little cordon off area. So one of the brothers said, Takbir, everybody, Allahu Akbar, Takbir. And that resonated over where the king was.
Right.
He broke ranks and came over to where we were. I was standing in the middle in the back. We had brothers and sisters. We walked straight up to him. I put my hand out. We pressed my hand. I pressed his hand. And he told the Secret Service, he said, none of this, these are my people. We had Moorish flags. We had signs written in Arabic, about the brotherhood of the East and West.
That's
It
right.
was quite an exciting time. So as a result of that, that eventually set up a meeting with his son, and his little brother, Sidi Muhammad. And he is now the king of Morocco. He was like 16 years old.
Right.
So I got a picture in my book, of that meeting in the Madison Hotel. There's a
Yes.
lot more to that story, but we don't have time to go into all of that today. I wanted to at least cover some more of your questions.
Thank
But
you.
that was very instrumental, because that picture, him sending his son there, and his 2 sons, because Rashid was a little at that time. Now that son, who was 16 years old, he is now the king of Morocco. And
Wow.
Morocco was the first African nation to sign a treaty with George Washington.
That's right.
So we were governing the Atlantic Ocean, and so they needed our assistance. They paid homage to Morocco. It's a
Right.
lot of history about that. But I don't want the listening audience to think when we say Morocco, we're just talking about Arabs.
Right.
We're talking about a mixture of outer people,
That's
deep
right.
outer people, dark outer people.
That's right.
Those were our relatives and our forefathers.
That's
Okay,
right.
so
Thank
I hope I didn't get too far off.
No, sorry. It was another. So it was another. I guess we can use the word pioneer that you mentioned as well before we go to the next question. That was brother H. You mentioned brother H, brother Harmon Anderson-El.
Yes.
Would you just be able to give us a little bit of, I guess, your interactions with brother Harmon as well?
Yeah, Brother Romanni had when I met Brother Romanni, he lived in Newark, New Jersey, and I met him through Grand Sheik Richardson Dingle.
Islam.
And so he told us to contact, Brother Romanni. And Brother Romanni had a health food store, a very, and this was during the 70s. He had a very powerful, up to date, and he was running it like a professional business person. Had his fez on, and he was an honor to be around because he had the aura, the very positive aura of such a positive person, and it was an honor to see a Moor in business like that during that particular era of time. And so he invited us, myself and Brother YG, spent a couple of nights in his house.
Wow.
He gave us a lot of stories that he had gotten when he sat under the reincarnated prophet John Givensville,
Hmm.
in Chicago, and he and Dingle were there together. That's why they knew each other,
Right.
because they sat under him at 447 East 40th Street. you know.
Islam.
So that was very important. Now, on my website, I have some old footage there. We had an 8 millimeter camera. So if anyone, any listening audience wants to go and pull up that particular video, it has some clips of the king getting off his plane. It has some our costume balls, several of them, and Brother Romanni had a nice picture with him and Grand Sheik Richardson Dingle. Now, this is live footage that I'm talking
That's
about.
right.
So I always had a great respect for that brother, because of his business acumen. And when we went to Morocco, he brought some of his Moors down from Chicago, from New Jersey, that
Mm.
were with us. And one of them became our national secretary, during that period of time. So Brother Harmon, and that was a good brother.
Islam. Thank you. And we're going to share your website, brother Amenu, if you don't mind, toward the later half of the
Yeah,
interview. Is that
okay,
okay?
that's fine.
All right, praise Allah. So the next question I had for you, I have your record right here with me, and the record
Okay,
is "The Negro, the Black, and the Moor." So the next
okay,
question is, what inspired the title of your book, "The Negro, Black, and the Moor"?
good question.
Thank you.
When Brother YG and I had gone to Florida, because we had one of our brothers there had a sister who was pursuing her doctorate. She was very good with communication, and so she said, "I'll help you. I'll help you all, get the book together." So when we came down to making the title of the book, we kept wrestling with that, and then I came up with the title, "The Negro, the Black, the Moor." Now, and if you notice in the book, a Negro is spelled with a small
Right,
N,
right.
spelled with a small N, and Moor is spelled with a capital.
That's right.
So I wanted to excite or stimulate thought in the community as well. Why would he say Negro, Black, and Moor? Because we were branded. When I say we, most persons of African descent or Moorish descent were branded
That's right.
as Negro, and Negro, it was a Spanish word that meant black. So it was the same thing, you know. And I wanted to make a distinction between that and having a nationality of Moor. Because if you look at the continent of Africa today, there are no countries nowhere on the continent with the name of black.
That's right.
We are married to that term. Now, a lot of times we're married to a term because we have taken the school system, and that's why another reason it's nice to have our own system, of education,
Islam.
because we can teach our people like all the other ethnic groups do.
That's
They don't
right.
have to teach it aloud; they teach it in their home. Well, you're Italian descent, you're Irish descent,
Right.
you're Chinese descent. Everybody has a decent nature of their forefathers, with the exception of the so-called Negro, the so-called black. And so we had to put that aside. And not only put it aside because it's so important, because constitutionally, and starting with the Dred Scott decision, there's another legal reason why we were isolated and dissected from the families of nations by using those terms.
That's right.
When I talk to other nationalities of people, and I've talked to many nationalities all over the world, I never have everybody understands it except
Except our people.
our own people here in this country.
That's
They,
right.
and they argue with you, but it's not nothing to argue about, because I'm so beautifully happy with being a Moor myself. I am becoming and being a Moor. I don't have to prove to anybody. So now all my grandchildren, all of them are born with my last name, Amenu-El.
That's
And
right.
so they say, well, where you get that name from? Oh, that's my father's name, which is my son.
Right.
And where did he get it from? My grandfather. He's still living.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's very important because it makes you feel different.
Mm.
I know when we declared back there in the 70s, it brought about a whole different persona over our mental image, our self-esteem, because not only did we know our history, we knew other people's history. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Very, very important, and for the Moors to understand that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So anyway, that was some of the inspiration, and we wanted to have a book to put legal documentation and examples in the book
That's right. It's a
as to
bunch of them.
how that breakover of name. I'm gonna give you one real quick. There was a person named George Bancroft, who was a European, attempted to write the history of the country. And in one sentence, they were talking about the blackamoors, and the next sentence he said, "Thus Negro."
That's right.
So it was a lot of the scholars, or so-called scholars, that had a hand in breaking over and identifying. They wanted to wipe that out. The Moors got expelled in Spain in 1610 officially. They didn't want that. But now where we are now, you should be proud, because now you can identify with the contributions of your forefathers directly
That's right.
instead of skating around it. We contributed to a lot of history.
Yes, we did.
In Spain and Morocco, you can go there and see all of the history. It's still there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Praise the Lord. So I know that you mentioned earlier that you're a member of the Rosicrucian Order. I also noticed on your website you deal with two essential points, and that's metaphysics and ontology. And
Mm-hmm.
also through our discussion, you mentioned ontology as well. So can you share with our listening viewing audience the concept of mental alchemy, psychological principles, and its connection to the art of concentration?
Oh yeah. Well, I love that subject, because on your last program, Brother Mungan,
Monday. That's right. Yes, sir.
he did an excellent job, I thought, of making the listening audience aware of frequency, vibrations, and energy.
Islam.
And so, and when you talk about the concept of mental alchemy, I like to say spiritual alchemy,
Okay.
because and we can talk about mental too, but people have put categories out. But the ancient adepts, and I learned this out of the Rosicrucian order, the
Okay.
ancient adepts, they trace their traditional history all the way back to Akhenaten, to the first grand masters of the mystery school system
Hmm.
in Egypt. We see on Noble Jew Ali's literature that he was an Egyptian adept,
That's right.
and in order, and then so he didn't necessarily travel to
Egypt.
eat.
Right.
No, and let me say this: he was brilliant in the sense that he knew how to present the keys to us. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
sir.
we have to think about the time that he was on Earth. Now he's born in 1886.
Mhm.
So by the time he was 14, that's 1900.
Right.
And so by the time he went to Newark, New Jersey, that's 1913, right?
That's right.
When the Canaanite temple.
That's right.
But let's say in between that, there's a lot of legends about Noble Drew Ali, and they've been passed down from various people. And some of them may be true, and some of them aren't. But
Right.
all we know is we judge him by his words, works, and deeds.
That's right.
And so nobody told us that we were descendants of the ancient Moroccans born in America, but Drew
The
Ali.
prophet. That's right.
That was the honorable Drew Ali, the
That's
prophet.
right.
Yeah, so the thing of it is that we've got to realize that a prophet is a teacher. He's, among other things, he's a leader, he's a
That's right.
teacher, and he's versed in many sciences. And one of the sciences that's so very important is the science of energy, vibration, and healing. And so when we talk about mental alchemy, well, let's talk about what is alchemy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's the first question we should ask. And alchemy is a series of vibrations. I'm gonna start that point. It can go much deeper than that,
That's right.
but the ancient alchemists were trying to take base metals like gold,
Gold,
sulfur,
silver. Come
yeah,
on.
gold, sulfur, and salt. Take
Okay.
the base metals and try to convert that and transform that into gold. Now there were cases where some people did it not, but the idea of the alchemy is a transformation of energy. Spiritual alchemy means that you can have a visualization of something and bring that visualization into fruition. Now there's steps in order to do that, in order to use those sciences. So some of the you said the psychological principles is being able to know the laws of the universe. You know,
Yes.
the laws that are pertaining. Now, Drew Ali taught us the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Right. Now,
Right.
each one of those principles is a lesson within itself. But truth is one of the steps that's on its way to gaining alchemy.
Mm.
And the idea of the real alchemist is to transform his thoughts into his experiences on this planet Earth, because we're in a physical vehicle, but we're spiritual beings.
That's right.
In other words, we're dual in concept. We
That's
just
right.
occupy this physical vehicle. That's the form that you need on Earth in order to be an Earthling or a person on the Earth. You know. Now you asked me about the word ontology. That means the science of being.
That's right.
The science of being is the earth. But mental alchemy, you want to be able to learn those principles. And before you can even get on the path to learning those principles, you got to have a pure heart.
Hmm.
You mean you got to be wanting to pursue truth. You have to want to be able to understand all of the guardians that we have inside of our body, and by that I mean our organic system. We got systems of sevens all through our body.
That's right.
You know, and so and I think you said concentration too,
Yes,
right?
sir. The art of
Well,
concentration.
a lot of people in the modern world today, they said, "Oh, we're concentrating. We're going to meditate." Well, the purpose. What is the purpose of your meditation? In other words, and what conditions are you going to create in your environment to enable you to meditate so that you can achieve a purpose and a goal from your meditation? You know what I mean? So
Yes.
you have to set a certain standards out. That's why some people use a little soft music,
That's right.
the Himalayan singing bowls.
Right.
You have to tune yourself, with certain vowel sounds and mantras if you want to use those. There's a combination of tools that people use in order to gain their a better understanding of how to meditate. and how to take yourself from the mundane environment that we're in and raise your consciousness or your levels of thought. And that can be done through thought.
That's right.
I saw a lesson one time that said, "Thought is God, God is thought." We are
Mm.
phases of the beings of thought, on the planet. You know. So, and what else did you ask me? Did you ask me about the
So that
trans?
was. Oh, my apologies. You were saying, what were you saying?
Did you say something about transformational mindfulness? Did you?
Oh, so yes. So that was the second part of the question. So dealing with the nature of consciousness, you dealt with the art of concentration. So what is the nature of consciousness, and what is its relation to transformational mindfulness?
That's a good one. The first of all, our consciousness is the state of understanding that we exist. Uh, old philosopher, I think it was Descartes, said, "I think, therefore I am."
Yeah, right.
And so when you think about, well, I am that I am, that's an old phrase as well.
That's right.
When you're dealing with your consciousness is thought. Thought is all things. Thought is God. However, we see God,
That's
not
right.
necessarily in a anthropomorphic, and what I mean by that, like a physical being,
That's right.
spiritual, powerful entity that travels through the holy breath.
Right.
That's another vibrational thing. First I heard about the holy breath in the Moorish Science Temple. I stopped smoking cigarettes when I came in the Moorish Science Temple. None of the brothers were smoking.
Right.
I stopped, because I realized how powerful that was against my breath,
Right.
my breathing. It said God breathed breath through the nostrils of man, and he became a living soul.
So that's right.
So, but transformation means that you take your thoughts. Okay, let's say you have a negative thought. And let's talk about, we need negative and positive. There's a negative and positive in everything. And one of the books that I would recommend if people haven't gotten it is
Sure.
called the Kybalion.
Okay.
It's a KYB. I got it right here.
Can you give us a spelling? We'll put it in the chat.
Yeah,
So it's KYB.
yeah, Lion. And it talks about vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect. It was printed, for those who want to know, it was printed in around 1900, 1908. So it's over 100 years old. And it was printed by the three initiates.
Okay.
It's about Hermetic teachings and Hermetic principles. And Hermetic principle goes back to Trismegistus, which is a Greek terminology and
Right.
translation for thought,
That's
which
right.
came out of ancient Egypt.
That's right.
So these principles to live by. This was a powerful little book because it talks about the all, you know, and anything that's outside of the all can't be us because it wouldn't be the all.
That's right.
So when you see Allah, the first three letters say the all,
Well, that's
and
right.
that's not a Allah is an English translation because you write Allah differently in Arabic.
That's right.
So when people say we talking about Allah, who is Allah? The Father of the universe. Well, many nations have a different name for how they see God,
That's right.
but we all should learn to be tolerant
Of each
of each
other.
other,
That's
and
right.
that's what I like about your show.
Thank you.
And you and Brother Manaz Bey, you all give off such nice vibrations,
Thank you.
and you open minded. We need young people like you all so that we can share information
Yes, sir.
and not get stuck in 1928.
That's right. That's what we. That's
I love 19. Now, don't get me wrong.
right. Right.
I'll
Right.
make it very clear that I
Right.
would not be here if it wasn't for
That's
Prophet Noble Ali. I got
right.
that. We covered that.
That's right.
But I wouldn't have been on this path. I'm so happy at being my age and having grandchildren, and I got 27 first cousins still living.
Wow. That's a
First,
blessing.
I'm not talking about their children and their children's children. So we have a big family.
That's a blessing.
And that's a blessing for me to be present and be able to be invited on your show. It's an
Thank you.
honor for me to be here, brother.
Thank you.
I want to say that to you and your family. You exude a very positive energy because I can feel your energy where I'm sitting
Thank you.
through all of this transmission.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a few questions. So Moors in America, yes, we're going to share Brother Amenu-EL's website and where to purchase the book later on in the show. And also, Lomax Bay wanted to know where could she purchase that book, The Kabbalion? Where could we purchase it,
Oh,
Brother?
she can go online and get this, and it's not very expensive.
Like Amazon,
Yeah,
possibly?
you can get it on Amazon. But this is a very, you know what? I saw an older brother. I met him in 2006. His name was Brother Freeman-El.
Okay.
He was in his 80s.
Wow.
And that brother was giving such a beautiful demonstration. And he said that when he was traveling in Cleveland, he said he would run into the Moors, and the Moors would ask him, did he have a Kabbalion?
Mm.
And he would say no. He said the Moors would fold up their papers and stop talking to him. It was so funny. But you know, and the Rosicrucians had put this on their book site too. I want to talk about that one day because I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that Noble Drew Ali was exposed to H. Spencer Lewis, who was the founder of the Amar
Oh,
branch
right,
of
right,
Rosicrucian,
right.
because of some of the words that he uses in the questionnaire. Maybe at another time I can talk about
We can
something.
definitely bring you. Yeah, we can definitely bring you on the program, and you can expound on it as well if you're open to it.
I'm open. My purpose is to share knowledge,
Yes, sir.
not to declare it. I'm just a vessel and an instrument, you know.
No problem. So yeah, we will definitely set that up. Um, so everyone received the questions. All right. So moving on to our next question. According to your research and studies, what is existence and what is reality?
Good question, too. Um, Existence is, again, the art of knowing that you exist. Okay. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. We can see the wind blowing. I mean, we can see the results of the wind or a tornado, right?
That's right.
It's vibrating at such a speed that it's slowing the process down and forming clouds, but it's
Right.
power behind it. So a lot of times when we look at the trees, we see the cause and effect of a powerful breath or breeze or air, or how we want to terminology. And we have to start realizing that when we see a physical person, that's a collection of atoms. Atoms are composed of protons, neutrons, electrons.
That's right.
Atoms can become a cell, and a cell becomes a molecule,
Mhm.
and then it continue on upward, and another group of them associate together and create, a vehicle like
That's
what
right.
you live in.
That's right.
So when the child is in his mother's womb, the child is breathing through the placenta. The soul has not entered the body, so I'm taught.
Right. I've heard
At
that.
that point,
Right.
even though it's life being created, it's not a individual being.
You find that in the Quran as well.
Oh, absolutely. And
So
then
the soul is formed in
chapter,
our brain. That's right.
say it again. Say it
No,
again.
the prophet says the soul is formed in our brain. That's what the prophet says in the
Okay,
book.
no, I got you. Yeah, I well understand that.
Yes, sir.
And that's good. That's a good analogy. But in dealing with reality,
Okay.
what is real and what is not, our perception of things give us what we perceive to be reality. Like the reason why we see each other is because light bounces off of something and is transmitted back.
That's right.
We have tools in our crown, which is our skull, dealing with our eyes, which are our sentinels. The light, when light hits them, it bounces off and makes a reflection.
That's right.
A lot of things that we see are reflections of light. And so we have to understand the value of light in order to be able to determine reality. And that might not make sense, but I need a whole lesson,
Right.
to get into that.
Makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So the next question that would have, how do the cosmic principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice align with nationality? So how
Oh,
do they
that's
align?
no, that's very important because when I was coming up in the temple, we were learning things simultaneously. What do I mean by that? First of all, we learned that we were Moors, Moorish Americans, and we learned why we were Moorish Americans, and we studied on that history. And then the examples that Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us said Moors are men upright, fearless, and independent, right?
Right.
And so Moors have character, morale, and principle.
That's right.
When we learn those basic principles, and they say that they were for Moorish children, but they were for adults as well, because during the time that Noble Drew Ali was on the scene, when he threw his net out, all kinds of people came in the
That's
temple.
right.
He had his hands full. I don't know how I mean, he had to be who he is in order to survive during that period of time, and was very successful. But he had a lot of infiltration of all types of
Individuals.
attitudes and
Right.
all types of stuff that he had to do.
Natures. Yep. That's right.
But a true Moor is going to follow the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now, just think about each one of those attributes. Love has a creating power, a saving power, and a destroying power.
That's right.
We got to know those things. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
we can always, one of the things he said, we got to learn to love instead of hate. And learning to love is an ever going process.
That's right.
You know, in other words, I don't care how long we're on earth, we will always get indications that and challenges to make us more resolute in our principles of love.
Right.
And we want to honor the truth. We don't want to tell lies because you got to tell a whole bunch of other lies to build that lie up. You know, you certainly want peace. And the first place that starts is with us.
That's right.
We have the tools internally and spiritually to help us develop into the being that we like to be. You know what I mean? We
Yes,
have
sir.
we have to really understand the value of that. Like I said, a lot I want to go into. I know I don't have time to do all that tonight. I get excited because I got so much in me, and I don't. Like I said, I'm just a vessel,
That's right.
conduit. That's all. You know, I've been. You know, I've had titles all my life. I'm not worried about that. You know, I
Yes.
just like to see brothers like yourself and all make an opportunity to dig into. You know, but I
Thank
think
you.
to stay on that path of understanding vibratory energy and how to change your thoughts when you're thinking negative, because automatically science has already proven that you are manufacturing the wrong type of chemicals
Right.
when
In your
you're
body.
thinking negative, you
That's right.
know, and
That's
your
right.
pineal gland is sending messages to your pituitary gland, which is the output gland. And then we have those inside our body. We don't. We have a heart center. The heart is the seat of love. You know, it's so beautiful.
That's
That's
right.
why he doesn't say, "Where can you meet the Creator, Allah?" You meet Him in the heart.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a question that myself and Brother Velasbe, we've asked our guests in the past. So what is your recommendation on how we, as Moorish Americans, can develop operational unity within the Moorish paradigm?
Well, the first thing we have to do is to understand the meaning of practicing love for each other and forgiveness.
That's right.
You know, sometimes we think those are principles we need to, and where we get the opportunity to practice them is when situations confront us, you know, challenging situations. That's
Right.
when we apply what we have learned. So, in order to bring about unity, it starts with self. Each one of us have to practice that unity. When we see another Moorish American, you know, we don't worry about
What
what
temple he comes from, what administration. That's right.
you're a Moorish American. You got a Bay here. You have enough consciousness to understand that, and we
That's
have
right.
that. We have that in common,
That's right.
and so we have to practice that and learn more about the vibrations and the energy that goes on inside this physical vehicle, because that will help you to balance yourself. And when you hear the word chakra being used, they're energy centers.
That's right.
And before you focus on a place you're having problems, you got to line yourself up with the cosmic universe. We are from the cosmic universe.
Cosmic. That's right.
Cosmic will help us. Noble Drew Ali knew all of that, you know. So I'm very again, I can't say that enough.
Thank you. All right. So this is our last question, Brother Amenu-El. And it was posed earlier by Moors in America, and we also have it down here. The first one, your website. Can you just give us your website again? And I'm going to put it in the chat as well.
Oh yeah, well the website is my name in lowercase letters. It's Romanni Amenu-EL 1ONE.com.
All right, and I just put it in the chat for the viewers and the listeners.
You
So it is
did?
in. Yes, sir. I had it already up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I had
thank
it
you.
already up. So praise Allah. But
Romanni Amenu-EL. Remember
that's
that?
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. So
One, and yeah, because you know what it is, so that's
yeah.
good.
So it's already in the chat.
And on there is also tells you if you want to, get a book, how you can get that, how
That's
you
right.
can order it.
That's right. Yeah, I got my copy. I think I actually went to a local bookstore here in Baltimore and I got it back in 2017. But I would rather go to the source, so they can get it from you, Brother Romanni Amenu-El. It's a
Yes, sir.
great book. Again, a lot of historical documents in the book. A great breakdown on a lot of history as it relates to the Moorish paradigm, and also a lot of the contributions that the Moors, elder Moors, have made here in Baltimore as well as elsewhere throughout the country. So again, I want to just again thank you for coming on to this program, coming on to the Moorish Sense channel. It's been a definite honor to have you on the platform. I've heard a lot of great things about you. And also, I've heard a lot about the Moorish School of Law and History, of course. Some of the, elders in the temple that I attend, as she could see, Maurice Bay, and
Yeah,
also Brother Maddox Bay as well. So
I
both
know
speak
both of
very
them
highly.
very well.
Yes, sir. So, are there any last words or anything you want to give to our listening and viewing audience? My apologies.
just to reemphasize to the Moorish Americans the value of declaring your nationality, not only from a divine perspective, I mean from a legal perspective, but from a divine perspective, and understand how to create uh, collective Moorish American unity. And we don't have to argue with each other because everything stands for itself.
That's
And
right.
when you start treating each other like that, it begins with ourselves, and then it spreads,
Yes, sir.
continually. Yeah.
That's right.
hmm
So we're going to conclude with the program. We're going to end off with the Moorish American prayer as well as any additional prayers as well. Brother Amenu-El, would you mind leading us off with the Moorish American prayer as well as any additional prayers?
Oh yes, okay. Islam,
Islam.
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
my salvation,
and my salvation
by night
by night
and by day.
and by day
For his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
And I'd like to say I thank the creator of the universe, the God of our hearts, the God of our understanding, for bringing us together in this beautiful harmonium of unity. And we trust that this will not be our last time, and make sure that we keep it on the dial place of our heart, the very principles that you have asked us to expound upon tonight, which are the five principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Thank you very much. And thank you again for inviting me. It was an honor.
Thank you. Amen.
I mean,